Now you can say luxury is in the eye of the beholder. Some people looking for that kidney-shaped grills or that star emblem on the hood, but there may be one brand you're overlooking. Hey, and welcome to this edition of Road Warrior. I'm your host, Grant Roberson. Now, one such brand is right behind me, and that is the 2015 Hyundai Genesis. Now, we've tested out the Equus, a little bit bigger flagship in the family lineup. The Genesis come in just a hair shorter, but either way, they are the premium brand by Hyundai and really compete with the big names quite easily. Now, fluid sculpturing is a term that came out back with the Sonata in 2009, and the Genesis for 2015 is the next generation of that, the 2.0. Now, it encompasses a family tradition that really is going to take a lot of the architecture across the entire lineup with a vehicle like this, adding just a little bit more premium to the overall design. Now, the design philosophy focuses on three strong elements: the fluid aesthetics, the new modern Hyundai look, and the premium accents. Now, some changes for 2015 is the dash to axle length, a longer wheelbase, and less overhangs in the front and the rear. Now look at the overall numbers. The Genesis measuring just a hair bigger this year at 196.5 inches. Now the one thing that has increased is wheelbase, going at 118 inches, 3 inches better than last year. Now the standard wheels are going to be 18-inch wheels with 19-inch available on the full-size engine. Now last thing to think about is really ground clearance, as this vehicle really snugs the road. Now that's going to come in just under half a foot. Now, one thing you think about on a luxury vehicle like this is, of course, passenger comfort, but one thing that can be Achilles heel is rear cargo trunk space. Now, what's great about this vehicle, it has proximity entry, one of the smartest key systems I have seen. As you get close to the vehicle, the mirror's going to unfold, let you know the vehicle knows you're close. Now, it doesn't have the one handle pull allowing you to just quickly get in. You're going to press the button that's going to either unlock one door or all four. Now, another nice feature is, of course, cargo. One of the biggest aspects again think of when you think of luxury and really getting everyone and their gear inside. Now, one really great feature is as you swing around here to the trunk space, the vehicle is going to know you're back here. Maybe you have tons of things in your hands, and guess what happens? The trunk's going to come on up without you pressing any buttons. Now, once it swings open, this is something a lot of vehicles are missing out on, and that is this huge, vast opening. A lot of times we're sculpting, we're chiseling too much of the trunk area, really squeezing this opening down. What we have here is a huge open cavern, really allow you to squeeze anything inside. And as I talk about it, of course, your golf clubs. Now, when you look at the numbers, you're looking at about 15.3 cubic feet of space. Now, what does that translate to? On average, pretty well in this size segment. A lot of vehicles even coming in a little bit less. Now, even better, there is no need to pull this down. You simply press this button here, it's going to retract for you. Now, with all this luxury, we need to keep safety in mind just the same, and one great feature is the surround safety system. Now, what that does is alert this vehicle should something be impeding in its direction of travel. Now, what this means is, let's say at 50 to 100 miles an hour, it's going to allow it to partially brake and give you a warning telling you to take an evasive maneuver or slow it down more. Now, in the slower speeds from 0 to 50 miles an hour, this vehicle will actually fully brake, coming to a complete stop to all but avoid any type of collision. Now, this system works in coordination with a whole bunch of the sensors on this vehicle, including the blind spot awareness and even the front sensors you're going to associate with the cruise control. Now, what's great about the adaptive cruise control in this particular vehicle is it's adaptive all the way down to 0 miles per hour. So when you're on the highway and you're going at typical speeds of 60, 65, as people, of course, get in front of you, it's going to slow down. But should they do an extreme braking, this cruise control will actually fully brake. Now, what's even better is it has a lot of sensories in there, keeping distances that you prefer. Some cases 4 car lengths, 3, 2, all the way up to a little bit closer. And this really became crucial in high traffic patterns where this vehicle would otherwise have to turn on the cruise, turn it off. Pretty much set it and go with the flow. Now, the tested Genesis came with the smaller engine, the 3.8 liter V6, that compared to the full-size 5.0 liter V8. Now, there's no smallness really in that V6 because we really found it to have plenty of power, even though this vehicle is going to weigh more than 4,000 pounds. Now, what I found truly, though, is depending on the driving mode is really how you get this vehicle to boot, scoot, and boogie. Now the way you do it, of course, is press the sport button, and you're going to notice a lot more dynamics. And if you put it in that shifter-like mode, it really allows you to kind of shift the gears on the fly. Now when you look at the fuel economy numbers here on the V6, you're going to get somewhere between 18 to 29 miles per gallon. We average somewhere in the low 20s. Now if you go with the full size offering, that's going to deliver about 420 horses, that versus the V6, which is around 311. Now that V8 is going to give you a lot more power, but going to suck a lot more gas. It's going to translate to about 15 to 23 miles per gallon on average. Now one last aspect about performance is really when it comes to climate control, and not on the inside, but on the outside, and letting this vehicle be able to perform anywhere. Now the way that's handled is it comes in two options, either the rear wheel drive or the all-wheel drive model. Now the all-wheel drive model basically allows this vehicle to really handle any climate, as it has a snow driving mode, pretty much allowing it to grip anywhere you take it. Now last but not least is the transmission, as this vehicle is equipped with an 8-speed automatic, which it does have that manual-like mode like we talked about. Now even on this V6 in that manual mode, one thing I don't ever really use, I found it enjoyable to put it into that manual shifting, really hammering this vehicle as if it's a sport automobile. Now once you climb inside the Genesis, this is where the luxury on the outside invades on the inside, and the most notable really comes down to design features. And you're going to notice right off the bat the premium dash that you see, the wood grains, the interlaid metal. And what they did is they really paid an emphasis on the materials they use, really taking a lot of emphasis on getting rid of the glare, any reflections. So that's why you see like these matte finished metals here and the deep rich wood grains. Now one thing you're going to notice definitely on this particular model is the huge oversized touchscreen system right there front and center. Now that's about an 8-inch screen system that you can touch, find all the functions you want, but most importantly there is a central control knob that you'll find on a lot of luxury vehicles like this that really houses everything and handles it. Now you just simply turn the knob, toggle it here and there, and it's going to really navigate this system quite well. Now if electronics kind of overwhelm you, then that might be the case when you first sit down, because it does have a kind of Boeing 747 like feel with buttons, a plethora of them on the steering wheel, of course on the dash. So it really takes a little bit of getting used to, but really it all comes down to simple functionality. Now on the steering wheel it really comes down to the most important functions, which is that adaptive cruise control we talked about earlier. Real simple to use, just a few buttons. Now it does have the nice toggling kind of spinning wheel like functions. Really, instead of just toggling it up, it actually allows you to roll it forward. Now what some of these controls do is actually control the LCD screen right there between the tach and speedometer. Now that's going to give you a lot of up-to-date information all the way down to fuel economy and the inner workings of the vehicle. The biggest feature I like is the huge digital readout for the speed. Now on the left side is the system for your radio, and really again being able to spin that little knob to get your volume up and even change your station. Now I've already talked about it, but the engine does come with an 8-speed automatic transmission with this shifter here in the middle. Now we talked about the manual-like mode. You simply shift it to the left a little bit. That's going to allow you to shift these gears kind of on the fly. One thing I didn't mention was the matching paddle shifters here on the steering wheel with the gear up on the right and the gear down here on the left. Now what's great about this, I don't use it quite often, but on this particular vehicle, when you switch it to the sport mode, really changed the dynamics of this otherwise luxury vehicle, made it feel more like a two-door coupe. Even on kind of the anemic V6 compared to that huge V8, still gave it enough get up and go to really give it a lot of sport. Now one great aspect is really the comparison you have between the Genesis and the Equus, as both vehicles deliver great interior comfort, with the Equus running a little bit bigger and costing just a little bit more. Now here on the Genesis is great numbers called legroom. Most notable is up front with a whopping 45 inches of space. Now that's plentiful and really going to handle everyone all the way up to an NBA All-Star. Now when you swing around to the back, it's going to translate to about 35 inches of legroom, and that's quite a big difference between the front and the back. But what I found with that whopping space up front, it's really just too much for the average person, as these front seats are really going to be slidden forward, giving a little bit more space to the back maybe 2 to 3 inches more, giving plenty of knee space between the front seat backs and your knees. Now, one thing you're going to find difference between the Equus here and the Genesis is that really back here there are no reclining seats. They're sculpted, but you're not going to find all those kind of crazy innovations that the Equus delivers. Really, it's going to be more straightforward, still delivering great luxury here in the back seat. Now, one noticeable difference really is between the back seat passengers and that huge console you're going to find on the Equus with all the controls, really turning that vehicle more into a limo-like vehicle. This one's pretty much straightforward. Cup holders right here. Now, one thing that is missing is storage right here, but it's another nice padding otherwise. Now, we talked about climate control on the outside with the all-wheel drive system, the climate in the front with the dual zones for the front seat passenger and the heated and cooled seats up front. But you got to talk about the back seat passengers just the same, and there's a couple ways we handle climate control back here. One way is the dual vents right here front and center. Now, it may sound kind of arbitrary, but what they've done is actually handled the heating and cooling with a simple toggle knob. Really blue squares illuminating to give you kind of cooler air. Do it the other way, it's going to give you a little bit warmer air. Then on the side is kind of vent control speed, allowing you to kind of damper it back here should you need. One last way they do that, and the most important way I like, is they have a huge rear screen back here that's powered by the front driver, and they have the side, what I refer to as limo screens, really blocking out a lot of that heat and kind of giving you kind of limo-like feel even here on the Genesis. Now, last but not least is the ability to transform passenger comfort into cargo hauler. But one thing to note here, we can't really do that. The only thing you're going to find that takes the trunk into the cabin area really is right behind this center console and the little pass-through system. Now, they don't allow for any folding, tumbling, flipping of these back seats, and it may be because they really focus on installing premium seating here that just didn't lend itself for folding. Now, I really don't find that a complaint because there's just so much cargo space back there, and that huge enveloping rear trunk really allows it to have enough space that you just don't need to mess with the cabin area. That does it for this edition of Road Warrior and our test drive behind the wheel of the 2015 Hyundai Genesis. Now, if you haven't looked at this brand, specifically the premium luxury that this lineup is offering, you're really missing out. Now, when you look at the bottom line, most of these vehicles are coming at thousands less, in some cases tens of thousands less than the competition, but still packing as much luxury as you can in one vehicle. Now, again, I'd like to thank you for watching this edition of Road Warrior, and as always, keep both hands on the wheel and eyes straight ahead.